So in this video, I want to talk about the number one book that changed my life the most. Now, I have read a lot of books, listened to a lot of podcasts, audio books. I've consumed a lot of content basically. If I look back at the books I've read, the book I'm going to talk about in this video is the one that has changed my life the most and set me on the trajectory of where I'm heading and where I currently am. So I want to share some key takeaways from the book as well as some personal experiences. And the book is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Now, you may have come across this book before. It's a misleading book if you've never seen the front cover. It's a guy sat between a palm tree. I'll put a picture here on the screen so you can see it. On a laptop, and it says The 4-Hour Workweek. And I think a lot of people seem to think that the book is about reaching this point of working 4 hours a week, which is completely possible, but that isn't how I take the book. I interpret the book completely differently, as I know a lot of other people have. And that gives you a complete different perception on what the book's intention is. So Tim Ferriss talks about this concept of the new rich. And this book is now 10 years old or something, probably even longer than that. And he has these two kind of people or figures in this book. He has the deferrers and the new rich. The deferrers are people who essentially trade their time for money, work a standard 9-to-5 job, probably doing something that they don't really enjoy. Whereas the new rich figure out a way to incorporate doing work they love into a life they enjoy, creates more fulfillment, and they can make more money doing so and just live life more on their terms. That's what Tim Ferriss kind of coins as the new rich. That's how I took it anyway. And the goal of the new rich is to free up both time and location constraints. So essentially you could work from anywhere, make the money you want, and do everything on your terms rather than having to be constrained to a 9-to-5 job in an office or whatever, doing things you don't like. So, which I think is kind of appealing to a lot of people that watch this channel. People are looking for an escape, a way to become financially independent, do their own thing and live life on their terms. So for me, this book was one of the most life-changing books I've ever read. So in the book, Tim Ferriss shares 8 rules for joining the new rich. So I'm going to summarize them now and give you the main takeaways and my take on them. So first he talks about this concept of interest and energy being cyclical or cyclical, whatever how you want to say it. And essentially this is understanding how to work and rest. So a lot of people in today's day and age work themselves to the bone, this hustle culture of like working as many hours as they possibly can to maybe earn more money, or just to work harder because they think that's going to get them close to their goal. Whereas Tim Ferriss is basically saying that you should interchange rest with work, because when you're resting, your subconscious brain is working away, and then you can come back and work more intentionally in shorter bursts of time and probably achieve way more than you would be if you were just grinding out the work on mindless tasks with like not the optimal brain power. The second rule is the fact that less is not laziness. Again, this relates to a lot of people nowadays who think that doing more work is better, earning more money is better, doing more is better. Whereas Tim is basically saying that what you actually put into your time and what you focus on, and it's probably going to be less, is way more important than doing more. And some people often feel that if they're doing less, they should be filling the time they've freed up with more work. And doing less and being more productive in that sense is not laziness. It's being productive. It's utilizing your time wisely, and it's actually going to get you to your goals way faster. He also talks about this concept of timing is never right. So I spoke to a friend recently who, again, wasn't enjoying what he was currently doing, and he wanted to find another way. He wanted to do something himself, start his own business, his own brand, make his own make his own independent income, and just do more of the things he wants to do. And to me, it sounded like he was struggling to pull the trigger and go all in on it, or like to struggle. He was trying to put everything in place before he'd even taken a step forward. And I think a lot of people do this. They try and set everything out, plan out 10 or 15, 20 steps ahead when they haven't even taken the first step. And Tim Ferriss in the book also says that, not all the lights are going to line up green when you're taking action on the stuff towards your goals. It's just going to be something that gets ignited along the way. So you take this first step, and then the second step becomes illuminated, and you know what to do, and so on and so on. And then you actually look back, and then you look at how far you've come in terms of progress, and it is crazy the amount of progress you've made. Exponential, it's not linear. I think what I'm trying to say with this is you should take action despite perceived obstacles, and the path will be lit up when you do that. Another principle I like about this book about Joining the New Rich is he shares how to seek forgiveness and don't ask for permission. So this is interesting essentially for, I don't know, say for example, if you're working a 9-to-5 job, you're an employee, and you wanted to free up your time by having Friday off or working from home. What Tim is basically saying in this instance is just go and do it anyway, see what happens, and then if anything does occur, ask for forgiveness afterwards. Don't ask for permission before you want to do something. Just do it. Obviously, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone or anything like that. But just do it, and then ask for forgiveness afterwards instead of asking for permission beforehand. Just take action despite perceived obstacles, and then if anything does arise, then address that afterwards. Ask for forgiveness afterwards. Another good principle I like from the book is he talks about emphasizing your strengths rather than trying to fix your weaknesses. So we're all really good at a handful of things, and we probably suck at just as many other things. You probably suck even more things than you do that you are great at things. So what Tim is basically saying in this instance is that you should focus on your strengths. So what are you really good at? Knuckle down and go all in on that, or those sets of skills. So if you have a passion, say for instance like me for mountain biking, I focus on building my brand around mountain biking, travel and adventure, because that's what I felt my calling was, or that my ultimate strength was. So I built my business around that rather than trying to fix other weaknesses or do things that I wasn't so passionate about and I wasn't actually great at. I just went all in on my strengths, the things that I was actually really good at. And you've probably got something in your life that is equally the same. You're really good at, people will pay you for that skill or service that you can leverage and go all in on. Let's talk a bit about money actually, because money is very interesting. A lot of people use money as this measure of success. So how much money you have in your bank is the determining factor of how successful you are. Whereas in the book 4 Hour Workweek, Tim talks about being this new rich, which essentially brings into the equation time and money, not just the dollar. So if, for example, someone is working 40 hours a week and making X amount, is somebody working half that time but earning the same amount of money, who's more rich, who's got a richer lifestyle? And obviously the person who has more time and the same amount of money, or even slightly less actually, is arguably richer in terms of like lifestyle and not just the overall dollar value or pound value, wherever you're watching this from. It takes into account time and money rather than just money and how much you can earn. So that's something you may want to consider as well. And he also talks about stress. So you've got normal stress and then like eustress. So stress is like it can be good and bad, right? A lot of people associate stress being bad, but we can actually use eustress to help us grow. We can use it for positive, growth-orientated progress towards goals, and we can recognize when we're actually feeling stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, and throttle back on that when we need to take a little bit of rest. So those are kind of like the 8 rules that Tim talks about. They're like my take on them, of how you join the new rich. You won't want to read this book or listen to an audiobook, it's mind-blowing. Or even if you have read it, go back and revisit it, because you'll probably be at a different stage in your journey when you listen to this book or any book a second time around, and you will bring out and learn way different things than you did the first time around, because you're reading it from a completely different person, vision and perspective. So and I want to cover the DEAL framework, the DEAL framework, and this is the framework that Tim uses to escape the 9-to-5 and join this new rich. So DEAL stands for define, eliminate, automate, and liberate. Define is essentially where we are defining what we want, and more importantly, what we don't want. So I think a lot of people focus so much on what they want, they miss out on the things that they want to avoid at all costs. And this is very interesting, and Tim has a very good exercise I refer to a lot in the book called fear setting. And essentially this is looking at worst case scenario, what do you not want? What do you not want to happen? What do you not want to do for a living? What do you want to avoid at all costs? And this is apparent to me when I've worked jobs I absolutely hate. Like, I've worked in supermarkets when I was younger, hated that. I worked on a tuna fishing boat, would not recommend that. Hardest work I've ever done, nearly drove me to insanity. And things like that make me think, I do not want to do that. That's something I definitely don't want to do. Whereas most people focus on the things they do want. But what actually happens when you focus on the things you don't want, it automatically magnetizes you towards the things you do want. And that's how you can almost think about creating this lifestyle of how you envision it. And the next step is eliminate. So this essentially is removing unnecessary tasks and things from your life, distractions that are stopping you from making progress towards your goals. So this is like doing busy work stuff. Things that so there's two principles on this. The Pareto principle, which is 80-20, which Tim talks about, basically stating that 80% of your outcomes will come from 20% of your inputs. Same goes for anything. You could even look at this in your house. You could say that 20% of your house is where 80% of the mess is, or the most used parts of your house. Like, it works in so many different scenarios. And what he's saying with this is that, going back to where I was saying focus on your strengths, 20% of your inputs are going to generate 80% of your outputs or outcomes. So think about where you're spending your time, what you put your time, energy and focus into, and is that yielding the results that they're actually worth. Second principle on this point is the Parkinson's law, which is basically saying that time will fit the gap or fit the time allotted you give it. So if you give a task a time to complete, say a couple of hours, it will take you a couple of hours to finish that task. Whereas in reality, let's say you could finish that task in 15 minutes, but you set yourself 4 hours to do it, you'll take 4 hours to do it. Don't ask me how, but that's how it works. Whereas if you had a deadline, set yourself 15-20 minutes to do it, you probably would finish that task in that amount of time. So this is a really good way to eliminate tasks and become more productive with your time. Next step is automate. So this is where Tim talks about hiring virtual assistants and basically automating and systematizing your life so you can free up even more time. It just means you can run more efficiently and, again, be more productive and get more done. And then liberate is essentially where you are moving away completely from a traditional lifestyle, a traditional 9-to-5 job, so you can live the lifestyle that you dream of. So if we look at one personal application of how I've applied the 4-hour work week to my life, this is through copywriting, which, if you're unaware, copywriting is a skill anyone can learn, even anyone as a beginner. It's a great way to earn money online. It can be very, very lucrative, and you can build a business around that. That's what I did. That's my path. That's what a lot of these videos on this channel are about. And there will be a link in the description where you can join my free copy club, where I share tutorials and guides on how to get started. But that's how I first applied what I was learning in the book, The 4-Hour Workweek, to my copywriting business. I built up a nice freelance copywriting business with many different clients, managed to get to a point where I was happy with the income I was making. We're only working a handful of hours a week, really, of focused work. So I had all this other time to focus on my passions, which was mountain biking at the time and travel and adventure. And obviously, working at a laptop, I had that flexibility to work when I wanted. I could just whip out my laptop where I was, do some work, job done. One thing I will add about the book, like I said at the start of this video, is that don't just think it's about working 4 hours a week, because although you can read this book and get to a place where you're working 4 hours, maybe even less a week, a lot of people don't want to do that. They just want to get to a place where they're working on projects they want to work on, they're passionate about, and they actually have a higher quality of life. That's basically what the core of the book is trying to teach us. Having a better quality of life, being able to balance out the amount of money we're making, the amount of time we're putting into making that money, and then being able to elevate fulfillment, flexibility, independence. That's essentially how I see the book anyway. You may have different takes on it. I think it's an absolutely fantastic read. I will leave a link in the description below if you've not read it, so please do go check it out. And jump on my email list if you're interested in learning about copywriting, and drop a comment below if the 4-Hour Workweek is one of your favourites, or if you're going to go and check it out, or what your biggest takeaway was.